Hey, what's up, foodies? Tonight is Monday Night Football and making candied bacon keto style. So it's good for you. And we're going to make this pretty simple. It's an easy recipe. Love it. You can make tons of this stuff, put it in the cupboard, and eat it 3 to 5 days without worrying about it going bad. What we got here is just standard baking sheet. And we're going to take a baking sheet and put these grids in it. You can get them off Amazon, a couple of them that fit in a half sheet like this. And we're going to string our bacon over it. And the thick cut bacon is what you want, thick cut bacon. Hickory smoked or applewood smoked are awesome to have. You see I already got some done over here. We'll get to that condition in a minute. And then basically pepper. You can do the thick grind, which is one way to do it, or the shaker, shake your own. And then you're going to need cayenne pepper. And I suggest cayenne pepper you do in one of these shakers with the small holes, a salt or pepper shaker, so it doesn't come out too fast. The pepper you can do light or heavy depending on whether you're grinding or shaking, and determine how much pepper you want, but you don't want to overdo that. And then lastly is basically xylitol or erythritol. This one's with monk fruit, but basically they're 0-calorie sweeteners because they do not digest in your system. They go right through you. They're awesome, and they give all the same flavor as sugar. I dumped that into a container I had when I used up some other herbs and stuff and spices, but I wanted to do that because when I sprinkle it on by hand, it goes on too thick. This helps me distribute it really evenly over the bacon. So again, putting that in a container with some bigger holes that you can control the shaking a little better is a really good move. So that's it. Cayenne pepper, regular pepper, xylitol or erythritol, which kind of is like monk fruit. That one's a bag of both of them mixed, and thick cut bacon. Costco's got a whole bunch of that stuff, as you can see. Costco's is hardwood smoked, and this one from Harmon's is applewood smoked. So next step is to spread it out over the sheets. All right, I know I said hardwood smoked. I meant hickory smoked here from Costco. Now, as you're putting this stuff out on the sheets, go ahead and just make it as tight together as possible. You know this stuff's going to shriek up a little bit. It's bacon, so they won't be on each other very soon. If you've got any bacon that's kind of like, big on one end and small on the other, you can alternate them, so that you get as much bacon on there as possible. This bacon smells phenomenal. These little grates, by the way, I mean, you don't want the ones that are big wide ones because the bacon will get all wavy or fall down into it. These little grates are perfect for all that grease to fall through. All right, we got our bacon all spread out on here. Never wanted to waste room. I found I could slide them along the bottom here because these particular ones are sliced a little shorter than those ones. So we got this thing all loaded. Now the way you put this on, again, if you're kind of pinching it and dropping it on by hand, you'll notice you get little bundles of sugar, and it'll maybe be overly sweet. But if you do this, it's kind of like heavily salting something. You'll just get salt everywhere. I don't know if you can see how heavy I put that on there, but that probably gives you a good idea right there on those crystals all the way along there, because that stuff's just going to melt down on this just like sugar would. Again, you don't need to go heavy, but just like you would if you were heavily salting beef or something, right? And just cover every square inch pretty well. Goes pretty quick again with one of these with heavy holes in it. You can do it by hand, pinch and drop and pinch and drop and scatter, but this will get it way more even. All right, next, pepper. You can just use a pepper shaker, shake it on here. Again, the pepper blends into it, so you want a good amount of pepper so you can taste it. So wish I had a little bit bigger holes for this pepper. And this is kind of a heavy grind pepper. It's not that really light, dusty stuff. That's one way to do it. And then I need 2 hands for this next bit. I'm going to grind the grinder version on the rest of it because I like the heavy grind too. And I'll show you what that looks like with the 2 of them together. But there's your pepper. All right, you can see the difference between the light grind and the heavy grind. Either way, they're going to just cook onto it and stick onto it, which is awesome, and give you peppery flavor. The last thing you want to do is the cayenne pepper. And again, I took cayenne out of a cayenne bottle, and I put it into this salt shaker so that I can distribute it evenly. You don't want to overdo the cayenne because it's not about burning your mouth. But you can see, you just give it a really light dusting. I don't know if you can see the red in there. Hopefully you can, but not a ton, just a little bit along the whole thing. And that'll come through just fine when you're eating it. And it's going to melt in the grease here. and kind of naturally distribute and work its way around. So don't worry about like if too much got on one little spot or the other. Like it's not going to burn your mouth on that bite or something, right? The grease will spread out. So that's about it. So you can see the salt, your pepper, your cayenne. And we're going to throw this in the oven at 350. I do it 350 with the convection too. So if you have that convection type that compensates and takes off 25 degrees, then go up to 375. You want it at 350, 15 minutes, and then we're going to take them out, flip it, and do it 15 minutes. Looking good in there on the first round. Almost ready. All right, they're out. You can hear the sizzling. We're going to flip these suckers. It's going to be great. Now, a couple little things to note on this. Yeah, they're all wet and sizzly. Yeah, we put all the stuff on the top, and you're going to flip them. That freaks you out like, hey, is everything going to run off? No, it's not. It's going to be fine. Trust me on that. Secondly, when you go to flip these, let me show you what not to do. Not that it matters extremely, but if you drag, like do a lot of drag adjustment across, you're kind of dragging those juices off on the grate below it. So as cleanly as you can set it up and put it down without having to drag them around is the more stuff you'll retain on the back side of it. So we're going to do 15. We just did 15 on the front. We're going to do 15 on the back. And then these are going to be nice and crisped up. All right, so same thing. We're going to take the back side and we're just going to get a nice coating on here, like it's heavily salted. I'm going to go down all the bacon with that, and we're going to redo the pepper and the cayenne pepper exactly like we did on the front. And they'll all be ready to go back for the last 15 minutes. So these are smelling wonderful. Sure wish this pepper would come out easier. Light dusting of cayenne. It's going to give you a little kick when you're eating it. Makes it so good. The salty, the peppery, the sweetness, the fat, crunchiness, it's phenomenal. And the cool thing is that xylitol, erythritol is guilt-free. Or I could talk about it a little bit right now, Moscow Mule in hand, while we're waiting for this stuff to cook and watching Monday Night Football. But essentially, the xylitol starts with an X, and the erythritol you saw in the bag in the monk fruit, they're kind of what's called an alcohol sugar. No, they're not made from alcohol and don't have alcohol in them, but they come from natural plants, which is awesome. They're not a chemical nasty sweetener like aspartame or sucralose. They're just an alcohol sugar, so your system doesn't act like it on sugar. It doesn't retain it. It doesn't have calories. Doesn't stick to you. So it looks like sugar, tastes like sugar. It's about 70% of the sweetness of sugar, though, so it's not exactly the same amount of sweetness, but it's good enough. It works great for this bacon recipe and for cooking lots of other things. So the only thing you're not getting in this recipe that's a little bit different because you're using xylitol and erythritol is that some of the molasses that they put into brown sugar to make it brown, that flavor would not be there for you. It's really not a big deal. When you taste this, you'll see it's phenomenal like it is. The other thing you can do with these, you saw I was using pepper and those kinds of things. You can substitute shaking other stuff on it besides cayenne. If you want to go like with a chipotle, if you want to go with some kind of curry or some other kinds of powders and try out some different flavors with the candied bacon, you should totally do that. Try out some different things that way. The only thing about xylitol and erythritol that's an issue, and it's not really an issue, it's just something to be aware of, is unlike sugar, if you eat a ton of xylitol and erythritol, and you can look up how much that is, but if you eat a lot of it, like if you're cooking it and everything and eating it all day long, I'm told that it will give you diarrhea. That's the only thing, is if you eat way too much of it. So I never eat tons and tons and tons of sweet stuff anyway, so it's never an issue. But that's the only side thing to know about. Other than that, it's a dietary awesome thing. It's good with your, people have insulin issues and awesome stuff like that. So, all right, we'll get this bacon out here in just a minute. I don't know if you can see this, but sometimes, yeah, I can see it a little bit. Your stove, when it gets down to the end of this, little interruption there. Sorry. So your stove may start smoking just a touch because we're getting down to the end of this. We got the last 3 minutes. That means that the loose bacon that is in there that's kind of melted off is getting to the point where it's starting to smoke and cook. It's okay. It's totally fine. It's right down to the end of the cook, so it's not going to burn and go nuts. But if you do get the smoke coming up out of your stove, out of the vent, just turn on your vent, let it just kind of suck it up for that last couple minutes. It's again, it's not going to be burny and smoky and set off your alarms. At least it doesn't in my case, because it's right there at that point before it goes crazy and burns up. It's perfectly at the end of the cook. So just don't be scared of that. Turn your vent on for just that last couple minutes. All right, batch is done. The last batch is done. See the smoke coming off that thing a little bit because that grease is getting right at that smoky point. All right, couple things to note here. As far as tongs go, tongs with a stiff metal point are best working with like greasy meat and stuff. The tongs with the rubber silicone tips are great, but with meat and grabbing meat, I'm just telling you the metal tips are the better ones. You're going to see tons of grease down below, obviously, and if you're doing a full pack, you can see I got like about half the pack on here, and you're probably going to want to finish the whole pack and put the next batch in and do it again, right? You're going to have to get rid of the grease before you do the next batch, or that grease that's already in there is going to get at the burn point too quick and smoke all over the place. So you got to start with fresh pans, which means you're going to probably have to dump the grease, use lots of concentrated liquid dish soap to clean it all up, dry the pan like you're doing dishes to get it all clean and ready for next batch again, because you can't do it with the old grease. So other than that, what I do is I'm getting parchment paper. I'm not using things like paper towels or other stuff because I don't want to soak up the grease, and I don't want to, the grease already dripped through, right? I want it to dry up with all the stuff that's on it and not have that soak into anything else. So I'm going to continue to just use parchment paper or something similar. Wouldn't let it go out. And then just let it sit and calm down and crystallize back up again and harden for 30 minutes or something, and you'll be ready to put these in a container. Cool, so we're all cleared out, got them all drying. Of course, your other option is to get 2 trays, 2 sets of grids, cook more at a time and not have to worry about getting rid of the grease in the middle if you're going to do this very often. We're going to come back here and test these in just a second after we let them cool off. All right, last but not least, you've got all these wonderful pieces of candy bacon ready to go. You can store them for quite a while because they're cooked and ready to go. I'm just going to break them in half and put them in these little containers just like they were candy or something, or fold them in half, whatever, so I can just pull them out whenever I want a piece of candy bacon. These little vacuum containers are perfect, but this stuff is phenomenal. So good. So that's the recipe. Go ahead and reach out if you got any other questions.